Hello, everyone. Welcome again to my YouTube channel. This episode is the 25th installment in my program, Social Change. How and when will it come true? This episode will continue our discussion of the concept of justice, which is among the most essential components of human transformation for social change to take place in world societies. This episode and the next, that will be installment 26, I choose to give the title, Why No Understanding to Get Rid of Poverty. Situations as to income making or the conditions affecting the ways of people's lives in the Philippines are no different from those which exist in similarly situated societies and even those in the highly developed nations of the world. Much worse of such situations could be or are existing in the least developed countries. In the Philippines, for example, to be noted is the antiquated economic structure which is obstinately exploitative, monopolistic, and ultra-acquisitive. What it serves effectively is in keeping the vestiges of colonialism, notwithstanding the collapse or disappearance of foreign colonialists, because despite the avowals or expositions of nationalism and or equality in opportunities for citizens, the poor, who are remaining poor from year to year, are finding themselves without capabilities to live in dignity and in abundance. It is then a situation of shouting notice to all the world that, unless and until training in higher education shall have been programmed and effected for every one of today's youth, a bleak future of much more poverty in recycling viciousness could be the unending prospects for societies of the poor. This is the present day's reason why poverty exists in both rich and poor countries, that each one to his own attitude of the laissez-faire entrepreneurial concept breeds its equivalent version in Philippine scenes as it does in those of other countries the world over. Such a concept of one-sided permissiveness is continuously working to establish a pattern of wealth monopolism, essentially favorable for the few elites who have, in fact, become ultra-acquisitive in self-aggrandizement. Yet, that concept is now to be equated with a kind of a remunerative tenet for permissiveness in general education opportunism, which would make the big majority of the masses well ideologically haunted and sufficiently possessed with physical and intellectual capability for mutual developments towards conveniences in ending poverty and most of its concomitants. Poverty, as in fact the one-sided social advocates would have us agree, like disparities of income, is simply held in some form of an unavoidable social condition. In their view, such a phenomenon exists, especially in the capitalistic societies where, as Professor Paul A. Samuelson, in his well-known book Economics, tells of the observation made by Karl Marx. The workers, according to Karl Marx, and the peasants are bound to be exploited. Conditions of this nature necessarily make the rich capitalists richer. So it is told that, quote, the greatest disparities in income are due to differences in wealth ownership, closed quotation. Mentioned are the names of Robert Thomas Malthus and David Ricardo from among the most of the classical economists. They are said to have thought of economics as the, open quote, the dismal science of an alterable distribution of income, closed quotation. Vilfredo Pareto, Italy's exceptionally notable economist and sociologist, is known for having enunciated what he had called the inevitable law of inequality, stressing the fact that, open quote, essentially nothing can be done about inequality, closed quotation. Such views, of course, help to emphasize a concept which lets things as they are, or a concept allowing the persistency of all things to be at status quo and in whatever they may be. That, of course, is as though all of society have totally become insensate, bereft of any means of reasoning properly. And that is as if we have all been rendered forever incapable of recognizing the ugliness of existing errors or of correcting defective conditions, thereby simply letting each one to his own. However, U.S. President John F. Kennedy, as quoted by Edward R. Cunisala in an article which appeared in the Philippines Free Press, made this observation many years ago. The war against hunger, according to John F. Kennedy, open quote, the war against hunger is truly mankind's war of liberation, closed quotation. Yes, hunger or poverty and whatever it brings are man's own making, but this is as though every man is entirely different from or unrelated to other men in all aspects of world life, social, cultural, economic, spiritual, and also as though man has no responsibility whatsoever to his brother humans, who are, in fact, God's creations like himself. Of course, we know that at least the misfortune of poverty is man's own fault because of his imprudence, complacency, and laziness, or for reasons of greed, vice, and other malintentions side by side with some of the moral ones. This is also as if anything that happens to some men will never happen to others, or as if everything that befalls upon one man has no means of affecting his fellow man. Yet, as a pastoral letter of the Catholic Bishops' Conference of the Philippines, published in the Manila Bulletin some time ago, tersely points out, open quote, man, the noblest of God's creations, is called upon that to self-fulfillment. This is not something merely optional, for human fulfillment constitutes a summary of our duties, nor is this challenge limited to economic growth. It must be complete and integral. That is, it has to promote the full-rounded development of the whole man and of all men. Closed quotation. As it is said, open quote, men today are not only becoming more dependent upon each other, but that all society is a system of services of which the two are a part. Closed quotation. Indeed, there has never been any time in the whole history of civilization, except in that of the modern man's, where social life has become highly desirable. This it is because of his own survival and for the preservation of human values in an ever-growing world community. Situations have been that even the best of thinkers seemed holed up in the jostle bustle of the quandary, so that actual conditions present themselves to be of a perverted pattern, immorally arbitrary and capricious, dominated by an ultra-acquisitive attitude to have placed society at the thumb of a monopolistic few. Yet, it is not in conformity with the wishes of the Creator and Giver of all things. A lopsided pattern that it is, only too few are the rich, too many are poor, where only the few rich are becoming richer, while the many poor are becoming poorer. In our next episode, that will be our 26th installment, we shall continue discussing the concept of justice as among the very essential components of human transformation for social change to ever take place in world societies. If you enjoyed viewing my program, I'd like to invite you to please click the like button. And for those who have not placed their subscriptions yet, to please subscribe to my YouTube channel. Let me end this 25th episode with this encouraging message from the Bible. It's in Matthew chapter 25, verses 41 to 46. I am reading from the Today's Living Bible. No, the Living Bible, I should say. Then I will turn to those on my left and say, away with you, you cursed ones, into the eternal fire prepared for the devil and his demons. For I was hungry and you wouldn't feed me, thirsty and you wouldn't give me anything to drink, a stranger and you refused me hospitality, naked and you wouldn't clothe me, sick and in prison and you didn't visit me. Then they will reply, Lord, when did we ever see you hungry or thirsty or a stranger or naked or sick or in prison and not help you? And I will answer, when you refuse to help the least of these, my brothers, you are refusing help to me. And they shall go away into eternal punishment, but the righteous into everlasting life. Thank you, my friends. Let's meet again in our next episode.